Firstly, I'd like to thank Coitneola in our parliamentary service there for helping us with our motion. And I thank the Line Minister for being in attendance here today for the entirety of the debate. That doesn't happen here very often, so we note your attendance, Minister. Thank you for it. Minister, as we know, it's been 100 years since the foundation of Garda Síochána, and it is a community police service that serves with the consent of the people. And we also know that our frontline Gardaí are unarmed, and that is one of the few forces in Europe that actually that remains the case, that when you meet a Gardaí, you're not meeting an armed officer. It is one of the few in the world, and our Gardaí, at one time, they were absolutely embedded in the community, but sadly that is no longer the case. And we have seen with the shutdown of rural Garda how that has unnerved many in our rural and regional communities. And if I could just talk about resources for a second, particularly to the divisional headquarters in Waterford, which I have raised in this House since I came in here in 2020. And despite the very significant capacity challenges there, we're still 3.5 years later discussing how we might help that facility, add to it and expand it. And we know we've got extra people coming in from the private sector, working as, in the private sector of the Guards, working in there, and no room for them in there, Minister. And I ask you, please, again, would you try and prioritise some scoping works and development of that divisional headquarters? Minister, I think where we've arrived at today with the GRA and with policing in general reflects a kind of an ongoing trend, and policing is not what it was 30 years ago. And the challenges now are very, very different, and I would say they're immense and overwhelming for many frontline Gardaí. I think we have to acknowledge, whether we like it or not, that there's a significant sense of entitlement with citizens now. And maybe the Guards, we have certainly had to adapt, the state has had to adapt, but we now treat Gardaí differently to how we treat citizens. And I'll give you an example. At the moment, if you commit a street assault, there's a kind of an unspoken statute of limitations that book of evidence should be ready and presented within 6 months. If a frivolous complaint is made against the Garda, GSOC steps in. There's no statute of limitations. And we have a significant number of Gardaí suspended around the country, and who are yet waiting, some for many years in fact, waiting to have these cases heard, Minister. And surely this is corrosive in terms of how people feel about their being treated in their job. I know of a number of members who are stood down, they cannot wear their uniforms, they're bound to desk duty, they lose allowances, on frivolous complaints, Minister. And, this, as I say, is absolutely muddying the water in terms of the attitude of rank and file as to how they perceive they are being treated when, as I say, they have to bring their own books of evidence so quickly into the courts. So I'd ask you to please have a look at that. I think, Minister, the other thing about rostering is what it represents is that rank and file are not being listened to. And they feel they have not been listened to for quite some time. And I accept that the appointment of Commissioner Harris was seen as a reforming commissioner. And there was no doubt the Guards, not all Guards are angels, there was no doubt that there was reform needed within the service. But I think what has happened now is that over time, that there's been an overbearing governance in terms of the Gardaí without discussion with rank and file. And members, when they raise issues, they feel they're not being listened to. And rostering and the challenges that rostering presents to new Gardaí in particular is a fundamental challenge. And I'd ask you to take the idea of people now, of new Gardaí leaving Templemore. They will most likely be sent to Dublin, most likely, Minister, sent to Dublin with, a very early amount of pay in terms, I understand the pay grades move on, but you're asking them to find accommodation in Dublin, which is not available to them. So now they are commuting, and they are commuting, as you know, very significant distances, and even in Waterford, we have Guards who are commuting down from Tipperary and from out in Wexford coming into the Waterford division every day, Minister. And if the 6-day roster is to be returned, they are going to see a significant increase in terms of their travel time and in terms of their costs. And as I say, there is no housing, Minister, and that is just the fundamental deficit that's right across our economy at present. But that is one of the things that is feeding this debate. The other thing I'd say to you, Minister, for married Guards, and I've spoken to a number of married Guards or cohabitating Guards, and where they are on opposing rosters, Minister, when should they get time to spend together, if you think about it? And if you think about them trying to manage their early kids, and childcare is a massive issue for them. And they have been raising this, with their members, with their representative association. It doesn't appear that anybody is listening in the higher echelons. And we have to remember, you know, just like the consenting of police, we only have a police force with their consent to do the job they're doing. And that is what they have threatened to withdraw, and that's a very serious place to arrive at. The issue of transfers, Minister, we have, I beg your pardon? I don't know, I'm sorry, I beg your pardon, I thought we had more time, Chair.
Dennis Lockton.
Pardon?
How much time is remaining? 10 minutes, is it?
No, well, there's 10 minutes in total. So
I thought the debate is to finish at 12.
I'll give leeway for a small bit, but
no, but understanding orders, this is to finish at 12 o'clock. If there's any additional time left, it falls to the group that has moved the motion. So there may be some procedural issues, but there should be additional time available to us.
slot as allocated wasn't taken
12 o'clock.
Was People Before Profit Solidarity.
Finish up your points.
Okay. All right. If I could just I wanted to say about Garda transfers, Minister.
By agreement to the House, we can, if people are in agreement, and the Minister's included, we'll extend it. So,
okay. We extend in line with standing orders, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Just transfers, Minister. We have guards waiting for many years for transfers and not a hope of getting transfers, and that's why we are seeing early retirements as well out of the Garda. It's something you have to look at. Look, I'll let my colleagues here finish out, Minister. What I would say to you is I think we need radical action in terms, and this is what this vote is really what I think represents. It's a frustration with rank and file. It's a communications issue with governance in the Guards and with head office, and that's what I think needs to be addressed.